Hey there, I'd like to welcome you to this presentation of the 1992 film, Leon the Pig Farmer, here at the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival. My name is Scott McGee of Turner Classic Movies, and as one of the jurists in the emerging filmmaker panel, I've been asked to moderate this discussion with our two guests, the co-directors of the film, Gary Sinyor and Vadim Jean. We're absolutely thrilled to have you here, virtually at least, having just watched this wonderfully delightful film. Can you tell us a little bit about how this movie came together for the both of you? I mean, what was involved in bringing it to the screen?
I made a short film when I was at National Film School called The Unkindest Cut, which was my graduation film, which was a Jewish comedy. And it was nominated, it was bought by the BBC and then nominated for a BAFTA award. And then when it went out on the BBC, I got a phone call the next morning from Eric Idle, who was one of the Pythons. And he said to me, have you got any ideas for feature films? And I said, who is this? And he said, it's Eric Idle. And I said, give over, who is this? And it was actually Eric Idle. And I said, I've got this idea, Leon the Pig Farmer, because I'd thought of that pretty much, just the title. And he said, great, let's meet. And so I met Eric and he wanted to commission the script. And I was very nervous about writing a script by myself. So I brought in a friend of mine called Michael Normand. And we wrote the script together. And then through Eric, we tried to make the script going into the American studios with a film called Leon the Pig Farmer when they were expecting A Fish Called Wanda was not really that productive.
Wrong animal, wrong religion.
Yeah. I mean, just going on, so as soon as you say we're making a film about a Jewish character, they're sort of glazed over. And so Eric and his company sort of fell by the wayside. And then years later, it felt like, Vadim and I met in a bar in Soho.
Yeah. It was. And I said, I've read your script and I think it's really, really, really funny. And I've never made a feature film, but do you think I think we can make it for not very much money.
And I basically said something like, you're the man I've been waiting to meet. I think I said it immediately.
Yeah, in other words, two people who had no money between us thought, well, perhaps if we had no money, we could make the film better. And then there was the moment I always remember was we pulled out a napkin, a cocktail napkin, where we went, okay, so the script will cost this. We'll need this for food. We'll need this for transport. And I kid you not, the actual budget that we made the film for was within, I think, about £10,000 of what we wrote on the back of that napkin. And then I said, there's only one thing. I think I've met the perfect actor, the only actor who could possibly play this role.
At which point I said, no. I think actually we may have a problem here because I've met the perfect actor that needs to play this role.
And I said, but no, I just cut the show reel for this amazing Jewish actor who would just be bloody amazing. And I mean, nobody knows who he is yet, but he honestly, I know he'd be perfect. And I said, his name's Mark Frankel.
And I went, that's the same guy, obviously. And so we were both completely enamored with Mark without knowing that, and we both decided that Mark was going to be the lead. And then what Vadim did was Vadim had his world of that he'd been making films with, shorts and corporates and adverts and stuff like that. And I had my film school world. And so we basically merged the crew. So the sound guys were like guys that I knew. The editor was mine, and Vadim knew the production designer and the director of photography. And we basically merged these two sides and brought everything together. And we approached the cast and said, we're really sorry we haven't got the £3 million we thought we were going to have to make this film. Would you like to do it for nothing? But we said, and what we did was Vadim and I created a system whereby effectively the £3 million budget was apportioned up and split up into tiny chunks. So if someone was due to get £30,000 as an actor for the film, they ended up having 1/100th, if I've got the maths on that right, of the income coming in from the film. So we still continue. So we set up a kind of communism, sort of kibbutz-like way of paying people and not pay people. And then when money comes in, and people really don't believe us, but when money comes in, still we send out checks to this crew and cast.
They're very small checks now. We shot it in 92 and it was released in 93. And in 1992, there was no internet. So physical paper publications were very important. So the Screen International was a very important British film industry paper. And one of the things that made you think, oh my God, I'm in the film industry, was when the in production section had your film listed. And I'll tell you how bad a time it was for the British film industry at that point. That when and I remember, I've still got it. I've still got the copy of Screen International. It went in production, Leon the Pig Farmer. And for 4 weeks, we were the only film in production in the United Kingdom, and we were being made for no money. And I think about it now, you know, there are tens of films being made every week now. But then it was a real low point. It was kind of just post. It was right actually just after one of the recessions, the British economic recessions.
It wasn't easy. We ran into some troubles with people who didn't like us for it. But we were the first one. We were the first film that was made on a sort of deferred payment, no budget kind of thing. And the reason we got that talent was because of the people were keen on the script, and and also the film very neatly divided up so that we had, like, although we had Mark in it for 6 weeks, so it was a 6-week shoot. We had like a Mariam Darbo week. We had a Gina Bellman week. So we only had to get those actresses for 1 week. I think we had a Janet Sussman week. So it sort of divided up quite nicely.
It certainly doesn't feel fragmented. I mean, I think that is a testament to your directing and how you seamlessly, meld all of those performances together, even though it sounds like they weren't all on the set at the same time throughout the duration of the shoot.
No, they weren't. But I think that's Mark. I think Mark. I mean, I don't know at what point we bring this in, but maybe we should at this point. Mark Frankel sadly was killed in a motorbike accident a number of years after we made the film. I think it was about 6 years after. But he was an amazing talent, and he holds the screen so well. And you follow Mark Frankel's story. You follow Leon's story. You follow Mark Frankel's story. And he was an extraordinary actor, an extraordinary presence, and just the nicest bloke. I know Vadim and I both felt his loss, like throughout our careers, really.
I think the film is a tribute to him. Really, it is an incredible performance, and also, he was an incredibly charismatic guy. If he would still been with us, I think he'd have become one of the biggest stars in the world. I mean, I think he's, he had that kind of presence, because it's a very rare combination to find somebody who's got those comedic chops and, be that good looking. It's really, really rare.
Mainly it's ugly people who are funny.
Yes. Well, yeah. I wasn't going to go there, Gary, but yeah.
Well, one thing I would just like to say about this film is that I think there was a quote Mel Brooks said one time that dying is easy, comedy is hard, and there's something that I think needs to be said. This is a very funny movie, and it is not easy to make a comedy movie like this. Where does your comic sensibilities come from, and what influenced you as a comedy filmmaker in this instance?
Well, for my part, I obviously was a fan of Woody Allen films growing up, and so the early Woody Allen films and Mel Brooks, obviously. So those two had influences, but I would also say that Eric Idle, when we were developing the script, like when we first handed in a draft and it had a kosher pig in it, I was slightly nervous. It was such a surreal concept to take it into this area of having a kosher pig. And I think in the first draft, we actually undid it. So in the first draft, I think we had this kosher pig, and then invented some joke that somehow or other it wasn't actually a kosher pig. And it was Eric who said, no, if you're going to go with it, then you've got to go with it. The other thing is that you're given confidence by the people that you work with. So when Vadim says, this is a great script, I really want to make it, it's really funny, then you know that your script is funny because other people are telling you. And then then there was a process, I'm sure, where we reworked it and added humor through the pre-production process and through the design process as well. So a lot of laughs that come out of design. I think we spent ages, or our production designer or our props person spent ages looking for a chandelier that worked for that joke, where the chandelier is replaced on the ceiling and in Yorkshire. And I seem to remember, because that was a very Jewish joke, very Jewish. And I think our production designer kept finding in Yorkshire little chandeliers that were like old school. And I'm like, no, this needs to be like a glass chandelier thing. And it was Jackie, who was our props woman, who got exactly, she's Jewish. I think there's that thing as well, where you've got Jewish and non-Jewish people cooperating and working together. And if it didn't work for both of us, it wasn't in. So, hopefully that made it, work for a larger audience.
Because I'm the Goyim influence, you see.
Yeah.
But no, I think, ironically, I think a combination of if you like, my non-Jewishness and your Jewishness, I think probably is one of the things that helped make the film work, because I would always be thinking, why is that funny?
Yeah. Now, for example, Vadim wouldn't know that every Jewish kitchen has got 3 cans of lager hidden under the kitchen sink in case workmen come along. But everyone who's Jewish knew that was the case.
I think that was one of the things that surprised us, was that you didn't have to be Jewish to enjoy the film. And I think that's, I hope that's one of the things that, and actually, interestingly, I think that's partly because, I think in my teenage years, I had a dabble with religion and understood, the other part of the story, which is, he has a relationship with a non-Jewish girl. I think if you've ever been dabbled with any kind of religion, where you might be, particularly, I think, your kind of formative teen years, where can I be with somebody who's not religious like I am? And the film does explore that. And so I think that's I suspect that's a universal thing, whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew, or whatever your religion is. If you've ever confronted that, then I think the film probably connects on that level, as well.
Definitely see a universality about it. One device that you return to often in the film, but you never go to it too much, is that device of having perfect strangers, sort of reflect the inner turmoil that Leon is going through, which is very much something I feel like you took out of Woody Allen, particularly Annie Hall.
It does come from Woody Allen, but I think Woody Allen himself probably gets it from some semblance of being in a very specific place, where you're in Manhattan and you're in Central Park and you see the same people over and over and over again.
Very good. Well, so you talked at length about Mark Frankel. I was so taken by such a rich tapestry of character actors that you assembled for the supporting players, particularly for his 2 sets of parents. How did that casting process come about for you?
So Brian Glover, I think Vadim, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I had this £3 million version of the film, which never got made. And I think within that, I'd approached Janet Sussman. Because she was her agent was my agent at the time. So I think Janet Sussman had been approached.
I remember all the conversations with each agent, very specifically. But the real breakthrough was Gina, because it was Gina's agent who was the first one to say yes. That was the breakthrough, because once Gina had said yes, then it made it easier to get the other people. And the other one was the meeting that Gary and I had with his own agent, I hasten to add, to try and persuade Janet to do it now that we had no money. And we sat in his office, corner office, of course. At the end of it, he said, come with me. And he took us into the kind of next room. He said, I have an entire shelf of what were then VHS cassettes of movies that have never been seen by anybody and that have never made a penny and no one has ever seen. And you want Janet Sussman to come into yet another one of these films. And Gary, he sat down. I remember Gary saying, but it's a Jewish comedy. And he said, this whole meeting is a Jewish comedy. He used another word as well that I can't obviously say. And then he said, okay, Janet will do it. And I think, she's such an amazing actor, and you just had reputation and so on. I think those two, I think once we had those two, I think he saw the chutzpah. I think he saw the chutzpah. And then when he actually came on set and visited, I remember he thought, well, how do you know what you're doing? This looked like a real film. God, we didn't know what we were doing. He was an extra. He's an extra in it. Yeah, he was an extra. Yeah.
Vadim was also very good at things like Vadim was much more experienced than me on things like camera movement. There's a shot in Mariam's apartment where the camera leaves Mark and goes up to the roof and then comes down and finds Mark again. And like in a million years, I would never have come up with that. But it's a great shot. It's a really great shot.
Well, 2022 marks 30 years since you made this film. Just as a closing thought, what are your, how do you feel that this debut film, how does it sit within the context of the rest of your careers? Both of you remain still very busy to this day. So what is it about when you think back on Leon the Pig Farmer? What comes to mind?
There's something about having nothing to lose, being completely unafraid of trying anything, of having a team around you and with you who are not doing it for anything that's to do with money, that creates a kind of freedom that you very, very rarely ever get again. And I think we did things and tried things that were kind of fresh, unafraid, naive, because we didn't really know what we were doing. And if it made, we had a very solid script, but if it made us both laugh, then I think we went with it. And so I think all the naive chutzpah of that meant that it's probably still, I think, one of the freshest things I've ever been involved with. I remember preparing every single shot for Leon. I the first 5 days, I had every single setup marked down on a card for every scene, to the point where you remember the sperm donation scene, Gary, with amazing, we had an amazing, very famous British actress. And I had literally worked out exactly on which line she would pick up the test tube. The scene when he's coming to donate. Yeah. I had worked out exactly on which line she would stand up. And I'd never do that now. I would never tell an actor, I want you to sit down on this line, stand up, you will be here. And I think what's interesting is that the young desire to be very well prepared, to try anything and have original ideas, probably means that it's got a freshness and an originality that hopefully holds. So I think it might still be, it's certainly one of the best things I've ever been involved with, certainly top 3. Where
Vadim has got to is Vadim now feels he's more assured than he's part. I'm still exactly the same. I haven't changed. And what's interesting, so, for me, Leon was a personal splurge. But after we made Leon, and after it had won awards at 2 film festivals, we still couldn't get a distributor for it in the UK. There were people saying it won't play one afternoon in our cinema in Hampstead. And we ended up, when we finally managed to find a distributor, breaking the box office record 300 yards away from where that cinema was. So this sense of people in the industry not knowing what actually will work for an audience has sort of followed me and dogged me and continues to dog me to this day, where I still am doing stuff that I think works. And, if the industry disagrees, then I'll go with the public.
That's a beautiful way to wrap it up, gentlemen. I really do appreciate hearing your memories and the things that you learned from that production. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a delightful, absurdist, deadpan comedy classic.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we quote you on that?
Sure. Of course.
That's a lovely review, and they were great questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me.
No, thank you, and thank you to your audience for watching it.
Yeah, thank you.